All right, everyone, welcome back into another NFL DFS video. My name is Eric Paulzine with 95 Sports. Going to be breaking down the Week 5 game-by-game breakdown. A lot of people are probably wondering, hey, how does this guy keep having these solid weeks? It's literally this video, okay? And I know a lot of people are going more for the short-form content. That's perfectly fine. But this is where we find the great plays. This is the process to finding those great plays, finding those games to stack, finding those great values, finding those core plays. This is that process, all right? So without further ado, let's get into this video. But I guess first, if you guys enjoy this video, as always, make sure to like and subscribe. That helps me be able to help you guys out. All right, now let's get into it. All right, so starting out with the Titans versus the Commanders. Now, this is going to be a very interesting game, and this is actually one of my favorite games to stack. Part of the reason why I'm going to start off with it. So looking at the game over and under, it is set at 43. So Vegas doesn't see it as a game that you want to attack, which should mean that the ownership is going to be lower. I like it in terms of like stacking, just because there's a lot of value on it. It's very easy to stack it. It is kind of somewhat like that Detroit-Seattle game last week, where the price points are low enough that you can make a quality build just based off of stacking that game. Now, it is not that same game. It's not the Detroit-Seattle game, but it is pretty appealing. The Titans are favored to win by 1.5 points. And we know the Titans' strategy, it is going to be to establish the run with Derrick Henry. The only problem is the Washington Commanders have been very strong via the run game thus far. Now, I do expect Derrick Henry to still get involved in the passing game. They are manufacturing plays to him, and they've been getting him 5 to 6 targets the last 2 weeks. I expect that to continue. I just don't really expect him to run for 100 yards, okay? Could he have a solid day? He could. And if you want to pay for him, sure, you still could. But I really think the Titans... We'll start with the Titans here. I think the Titans are going to be fine. Ryan Tannehill is one of those guys who's just very consistent. Okay, he had a bad game against Buffalo. We know Buffalo's defense is the best in the league, or one of the best in the league. Besides that, he's seen over 14 DK points per game. Now, at 5.8, that's not great. You want to see an explosion game, okay? And I would have loved to have seen that against Las Vegas. That didn't happen. He still scored 19 DK points, and I do expect him to score like 19 to 22 DK points. The worry with him is that, yeah, he doesn't have that ceiling, so maybe he's someone you stay away from, but I do think that he's going to have a fine game. Sure, if you're playing like season long, maybe you can pick him up as a streamer because you know he's not going to really hurt you. At receiver, the tough part for the tight ends is that it's cloudy, okay? Treylon Burks was starting to see a lot more snaps. He had a bad drop 2 weeks ago, and now he's injured, okay? So it's interesting what could happen here, but I do really like Robert Woods, especially going against the Washington Commanders. We know the Washington Commanders are a team that you want to be targeting. Robert Woods has seen only 75% of the snaps or so the last 2 weeks, and really this whole season, about 70% of the snaps. That's the worry with him, but he has been productive the last 2 weeks, scoring over 12 DK points the last 2 weeks. 9 targets against Las Vegas, a team that's easy to pass on, and then 4 targets last week, but he was able to score a touchdown. Obviously, with the Washington Commanders being a team that you can pass on, I do like Robert Woods a little bit more. I do like the price point of 5.2. He's more someone that if we are going to run out a stack of this game, I would just want to run it back with him rather than go out of my way to play him individually. And I do want to point out, like, I thought Kyle Phillips would fill in a little bit more this year, and he just hasn't. The snap count keeps going down. Actually, Cody Hollister has been seeing about 30% of the snaps. Interesting thing to monitor. And then Westbrook here, he'll probably play about 80% of the snaps, filling in for Treylon Burks. That should be cemented. At 4.2, he does feel a little bit too priced up for me. And I guess I should point out, like, Jeff Swaim has been playing more snaps. He's been playing like 80% of the snaps over Austin Hooper. That's trying to get the run game going a little bit more. If they're playing from behind, maybe Hooper gets, a little bit more usage then. Now looking at the Washington side of the ball, this is the side that I really like. I really like Carson Wentz going against the Tennessee Titans. Obviously, the Titans are a team that have been terrible via the passing game. One of the worst teams defensively thus far via the passing game. They've been giving up a lot of DK points to opposing quarterbacks. Carson Wentz is a guy that should have a high floor in this game, given the matchup and given how many times he's passing the ball. He's been throwing the ball over 40 times per game. We've already seen him have 2 games in which he's went off for over 30 DK points. If he is honestly like the highest scorer on the slate, it wouldn't be that shocking. That is kind of just what Carson Wentz does. He'll have some really good games and some really bad games. The thing with it is, like, Philadelphia's defense is good, and the Dallas D is a lot better than we expected, okay? It didn't help that Jawan Dotson got injured last week. That probably didn't help. Okay, but we've seen him go off in easier matchups. This is, I don't want to say it's by far the easiest matchup, but like Detroit and Tennessee Titans are very similar in terms of matchup. So it wouldn't be shocking to see him go for at least 20 DK points. And at this price point, that's highly appealing. He is part of the reason why I like to game stack this game, and I'll continue on as to why. I will say, like Gibson, McKissick, those points really just depend on the game flow. If the Washington Commanders are up, it'll most likely be Gibson being productive. He is fine. He's a fine play, but J.D. McKissic has been involved in the passing game a little bit more. He's fine as well. They're both kind of just eating into each other too much to the point where none of them are good plays. I will say Terry is going to have a much better game, I would say, this week. He is playing about 90% of the snaps with Dotson out, and Curtis Samuel is currently questionable as well. I do expect that usage to be there, and I expect those targets to be there as well. Like with Dotson out and possibly Curtis Samuel injured, they're going to be forced to throw him the ball a decent amount. And at 6.2, he is very cheap as well. So we can see why this is a game that you could be attacking. And then with Dotson out, De'Ami Brown might be a play that you want to be targeting. Brown should see over 50% of the snaps, okay? And if that happens, he'd be someone that I like. He saw 4 targets last week. Now was only able to convert that into 1.6 DK points. But given the matchup, given the soft price point, like you'd make a lot of stuff work with him. He doesn't really need to do much. He can only, he could score 9 DK points, and he could do that on like 2 catches. That's not asking too much. And I do like Logan Thomas as well. Logan Thomas should get a little bit of a bump at 3.2. He's someone you could use in game stacks. And I want to make that clear. Game stacks. Like I don't want to go out of my way to individually play him. But just looking at it, like this is a solid stack. It's not perfect. It's not something we love, but it is solid. And then Curtis Samuel, okay, this just changed. Doesn't have an injury destination, so you could play him as well. Maybe we take off Brown then. Okay. Maybe that's the route that we go. I like it. All right, and now getting to the Jets versus the Dolphins, a game in which a lot of people are excited for. I'm excited for it. This should be a fun game to watch. Okay, the Dolphins are only favored to win by 3 points, which is a little bit shocking to me. The over and under for this game is set at 46. The reason why this is a little bit shocking to me is like, yes, Tua looked elite against the Baltimore Ravens, but really besides that game, I don't want to say he hasn't been a difference maker, but this offense has flown through Tyreek Hill. It's flown through getting the ball to their pass catchers, short, quick, and easy routes. Same thing with like Raheem Mostert to the running back. Like the quarterback hasn't been asked to do too much. Okay, so like Teddy Bridgewater should be fine. Okay, and I should just start off with Teddy Bridgewater going against the New York Jets. Like yes, the Jets have been a lot better defensively than I would have thought. They look pretty solid. And I think that's why the Jets are only, 3-point underdogs. Teddy Bridgewater should be fine, though. He played about 60% of the snaps last week, was able to score 11.8 DK points. Given the weapons, given Jalen Waddle, given Tyreek Hill, like I do expect him to be able to score at least like 15 DK points in this one, maybe 18 DK points in this one. Like he should be fine. But the point that I want to make is that he should be fine enough for Tyreek Hill to still have that same role that he's had. He's had 3 out of the 4 games were games in which he saw 12 or more targets. The offense flows through him. The only game that he didn't see that was against the Buffalo Bills. We know the Buffalo Bills are just an elite team, a great defense. Okay, so it's not too shocking there. Jalen Waddle is priced cheaply enough to the point where you could play him as well. So like this game is another one in which I really like to stack. So let's put Jalen Waddle in there. Let's put Tyreek Hill in there. I don't really want to play like a Miami Dolphins tight end, but you could play Tyler Conklin, who has been something that we've been going out of our way to play. Now, he only had 5 targets last week, but he should have had 10 DK points. Like the 2 receptions that I didn't make were drops. Okay, and that's, I guess, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but they should have been catches. And if he gets that easy 10 DK point game once again, and that'd be 4 straight over 10 DK points. And at this price point, it's still too cheap for guys playing in over 80% of the snaps. So he's fine, especially for a game stack. From there, let's just go with Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson, it was strange. So like he definitely looked much improved from what he looked like last year. Okay. He was scrambling around the pocket, was avoiding pressure that was there. He was able to throw the ball away a lot, and that was most of his incompletions were just throwing the ball away. And then he did have about 4 drops as well. 2 Tyler Conklin, Garrett Wilson had 1, and then I think maybe Garrett Wilson had 2. But yeah, like he had a better game than what the stats say. We see 2 interceptions. One of those wasn't his fault. One of them was a 3rd and 11 in which he was just throwing it to the goal line, ended up getting picked off. Like we'll live with that. He was still, able to score a touchdown, threw the ball a ton, and he did have receiving touchdown. That's why he was able to score 20 DK points. So let's just say 7 points there. 13 DK points is really what he had. Okay, like let's be honest there. At this price point, that's still not terrible, especially given the Miami Dolphins, who I don't want to say they're an elite matchup. Okay, they've went off against 3 of the top 10 quarterbacks in the league, maybe top 12. Okay, Joe Burrow. And that's where I'm saying top 12. If you want to, I don't want to get into that. I don't really care about quarterback rankings. Joe Burrow, solid. And then they went off against Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen. So like, yeah, they should probably not be that good defensively against those quarterbacks. All right. Like they only gave up like 10 DK points to Mac Jones. And that's kind of where I want to go with Zach Wilson. I think he'll be able to do better than Mac Jones, mostly just because this offense is very similar to that of the Bengals, where they go 3 deep at receiver, very solid there. I think Tyler Conklin's a pretty solid tight end. Then you look at Michael Carter, And also Breece Hall, I don't want to say they're better than Joe Mixon, but very comparable in the offensive scheme. So Zach Wilson, if they follow that same game plan, should be able to go out and have a good game. At 5.3, I'm willing to risk that in some game stacks. So from there, I did mention like Breece Hall, been solid. You can play him if you want to. For the Dolphins, Raheem Mostert is very interesting to me as well. You could see a path in which they're like, all right, we're just going to run the ball a little bit more with Teddy Bridgewater. Mostert's been playing about 70% of the snaps, at least he did last week. He is someone that you could say is due for a touchdown, but they have been putting Chase Edmonds in there when they get into the red zone. That's the worry there. But I do think Mostert is kind of just due for a big game, especially if he's going to continue to get that offensive usage. He's someone that I don't mind, especially if you are game stacking this game. You could see him like having one big run for a touchdown. I don't hate that. At receiver though, guys, like, it is tough to figure out what to do here. So I will start off with Garrett Wilson, who has seen his snaps go up each week to about 74% last week, and it did come at the expense of Corey Davis a little bit, which is interesting. Also, it was his worst game of the year. I mentioned he had a bad drop. I think he had 2. I can't remember off the top of my head, but he still did look good with the catches that he made, okay? We saw prior to that 8, 14, 11, and 6. And honestly, like the target share that he got was just due, like statistically, just with the amount of snaps that he was playing prior and the targets that he was getting. And then last week where we just saw it kind of course correct, I think it'll be a little bit more in the middle there, 7, but still 6 targets. We'll take that any day of the week. 5.2 for him, who has looked really good. I mean, he has looked the part. I like him a lot. The problem with it is like Elijah Moore has looked good, and he's playing 90% of the snaps. You know, he only had 4 targets last week, but was able to score 8.5 DK points. It just seems like he is going to have an explosion week one of these weeks. Like, this is another great matchup with Miami, and I just think eventually he's going to have a big week, and I kind of just don't want to miss out on it, honestly, guys. At 5K, he could easily go for 20 DK points if he gets, a couple more receptions, because he's open on his receptions. That's the big takeaway, and maybe gets a touchdown. But you could also go Corey Davis at 5.1. Like, he's been highly productive as well, like over 10 DK points in 3 out of the 4. The thing with it is, it's like they're all very solid passing options you go with. For now, I'm going to go Garrett Wilson, Elijah Moore, and we have a pretty solid game stack here. We have a decent amount of salary left over, probably too much salary left over, to be honest with you guys. So a very good game stack that I like here. I guess I should mention, like, Trent Sherfield did play in over 60% of the snaps last week. We could see that happening again. He did score 9.5 DK points on 6 targets last week. Something that you could look at as a value play if you want to go that route as well. All right, so now moving on to the Patriots. I was trying to say the Pats versus the Lions there, but the Patriots versus the Lions. The Lions are 3.5 point underdogs, which is kind of crazy to me, given the fact that they're going against a rookie quarterback that didn't really look good. Okay, a lot of people are going to say he looked good, and that is going to be because he was a rookie quarterback and he was thrown into the game. Like, yeah, in that scenario, he looked pretty solid. Okay, but as a whole, grading him against other NFL quarterbacks, not good. He did have a wide open touchdown that he was able to hit. Yes. Okay. But like, let's curb our expectations for Bailey Zappi here. He's someone that was decent enough in the preseason, but not someone that you thought was going to be the next big thing. Okay. So tamper the expectations there for Bailey Zappi. I should mention the game winner under for this game is set at 45.5. Okay. So Vegas thinks it could be a scoring game. And I do agree, but I think it'll come via the run game. Okay. So like a great quarterback rating there for him, but let's just be realistic here. Jonnu Smith, most likely out. Jacoby Myers, still banged up. Like, he's going to have maybe Devonta Parker to throw it to, maybe Nelson Aguilar. Like, I don't know. There's just not enough continuity there for me to like truly love him as a play. What I do love for plays are both the running backs here, guys. They're both pretty cheap. Damien Harris has been playing not as many snaps as we'd like. Only about 40 to 45% of the snaps the last 3 weeks. The thing with it is, he's still being highly productive. Okay, he's still kind of the goal line back. 3 touchdowns in each of the last 3 weeks. Saw 18 carries last week against the Green Bay Packers. Now he gets to the Detroit Lions, which are a defense that you just want to be attacking via the run game. We just saw them get tore up by Rashad Penny. Okay, that was pretty much at ease. They just continue to get beat via the run game, and we know that this is the Patriots' strength as well. They want to run the ball. They ran the ball 32 times last week against the Green Bay Packers. I could see them honestly running the ball 40 times in this one, because that is just kind of what you want to do against them. So you could easily go Damien Harris, but at the same front, I really like the price point of Stevenson as well. He has been getting around 60% of the snaps, has been getting 5 targets the last 2 weeks, and the opportunities continue to be there about, let's say 17 to about 22. In this game, I expect him to be around the 20s. And at 5.5 in this matchup, I do expect him to get like 20 DK points, honestly, like the Baltimore Ravens matchup. Like I kind of just expect that to happen. This is a great price point for Stevenson, great price point for Harris. Stevenson is a core play. If you guys watch the video, you already know that. He is someone I'm going out of my way to play. And that's really it. Like if Jacoby Myers is active, sure, I don't mind him. We just don't know that yet. On the Detroit side of the ball, there are a decent amount of injuries we need to watch out for. We know Swift is out, so like Jamal Williams could be in play again, but the Patriots have been pretty good against the run. Now, like A.J. Dillon was able to get over 4 yards per carry. Aaron Jones had a great game as well, but like Aaron Rodgers, Matt LaFleur, they are good at just beating defenses and kind of just long, sustained drives and just kind of beating you that way. So whatever. Jamal Williams could have a good game. It's not something I'm chasing. Jared Goff is starting to get priced up enough to the point where I don't love it, especially given the passing attempts. Like I'd much rather play Carson Wentz in a better matchup, throwing the ball a little bit more. Like that efficiency is going to go down eventually here, especially when you look at it. St. Brown, I don't know. He returned to practice today as I'm recording this video, but we'll see if he plays. Like I don't know. I don't really expect him to play, but if he does, great, whatever. Josh Reynolds, questionable. It seems like he's going to play. DJ Chark is someone that I do expect to play as well, but if we get St. Brown and one of those other two out, that means Tom Kennedy could be a great value play. Tom Kennedy saw 80% of the snaps in that same scenario last week. And at 3.4, I think he'd be a great value. He was a great preseason play for us this preseason. Saw 5 targets, was able to score 8.4 DK points. At this price point, all you're really looking for is going to be around 9 DK points, and I think he could get there. That's perfectly a solid play value price point wise. And then I do think just TJ Hawkinson, he makes a lot of sense as a play. Sure, like they might Belichick might scheme that away to try to take out the tight end, might like double cover him. Like, all right, you're going to beat me with your backup receivers. We'll see, but I don't know. He's still kind of cheap there, honestly. And the Patriots have been kind of poor against the tight end, so I could see that happening. Decent plays, decent game. I do kind of like Detroit to cover that. 3.5 just seems kind of crazy for a rookie quarterback, especially with how well that offense has looked in Detroit. All right, get into the Jaguars versus the Houston Texans. So the Jaguars are favored by 7 points. Okay, that is pretty crazy. And the over-under for this game is only set at 43.5. So it's not supposed to be a high-scoring game. And Vegas is saying that, hey, the Jaguars are going to win by a decent amount. So they're kind of thinking that the Jaguars are going to be the team scoring the amount of points. And maybe like Trevor Lawrence, sure, he had a bad game last week, but honestly, watching that over, it was a heavy rain game. What do you want him to do, really? But he's only had like one good game against the Chargers. Like, fine, good enough against Indy. Threw the ball 42 times against Washington. Was only able to score 14.4 DK points. Like, that's a matchup that we've been attacking. Indy's a matchup that you're not too worried about. The Chargers are a team you can score on. I guess they are pretty strong defensively. So I don't know. Mixed results there from Trevor Lawrence thus far. I'm worried about him as a play, honestly. Like 5.6 is a great price point. Could he go off for like 20 DK points? He can, certainly, but I kind of like Houston at +7. They have been good enough. But really, the plays from this game are going to be the 2 running backs with James Robinson and Damien Pierce. Damien Pierce does look good, but let's start with James Robinson. Obviously going against the Houston Texans, who have given up the most DK points to opposing running backs. They were able to get Austin Eckler correct last week, scoring 3 touchdowns. Okay, it took him a while to get going, but once he did, he was highly efficient. Josh Kelly was actually pretty productive against them as well. So James Robinson is a little bit game script dependent. If the Jaguars are going to be in the lead, he'd be the one that you would want to roll with the most. And I do expect them to be in the lead. I do expect them to be running the ball with James Robinson. He should have a very good game. The worry is that he is priced up enough to the point where you do have to think about it. It's not a lock and load play, but I do expect him to go off and have a very solid game. Over 15 DK points is kind of what I'm expecting from him. On the flip side, we got Damien Pierce. Like, he has looked good, okay? He's gotten over 20 opportunities the last 2 weeks. And they've kind of committed to him as well. Even when the game was like 21-0, they were still committed to the run. That's when his first touchdown came. But that is the thing I want to point out. Like, I don't want to say a lot of his production came from one run, but a hefty amount did, but it was a great run. He did look very solid. Okay. Not really in the passing game. There wasn't that much room there last week, but he continues to be impressive. And the Jaguars, they shut down Jonathan Taylor, but besides that, they have been able to get beat via the run game. So like Damien Pierce is someone you could look at as well. He's not a terrible play. 6.2 is a little bit too much to pay up for him. I'd rather just play the Patriots players, honestly, in both situations, probably like Stevenson, maybe not Harris. I'd probably rather play Robinson rather than Harris. But that's close. Same play. Harris is a little bit cheaper, but like they're both firmly in play. Okay. And really the one play I want to point out the most in this game is going to be OJ Howard, 2.6. So he is someone that could be playing a little bit more in this game. Okay. He saw 75% of the snaps last week, and that was with Brevin Jordan out kind of the last 2 weeks. Only 2 receptions. He had 5 targets though, but at 2.6 for a guy that is kind of their red zone target. Okay, like Rex Burkhead got a red zone touchdown. Brandon Cooks got a red zone touchdown, but it wouldn't be shocking to see OJ Howard get a touchdown as well. Like personally, I would say, sure, Damien Pierce in the first half is more likely to score a touchdown than OJ Howard. But then after that, like game flow wise, if they are playing from behind, like Vegas thinks could happen, like OJ Howard would be someone I wouldn't be shocked to see score a touchdown. Okay, I don't mind him at 2.6, a quality play. We did see him score 2 touchdowns in week 1. Pretty silent since then, but given the snap count, he is someone I'm looking at as a value play. And then just calling it out like Chris Kirk, 6.6, probably priced up a little bit too much. Still playing 90% of the snaps, still getting a ton of targets. I'm fine with it if you guys want to play him. I'm not going to argue, but I will say Zay Jones most likely back in this one. We've seen him be targeted a decent amount. We've seen him play around 75% of the snaps. Like an intriguing play at 4.1 for sure. Targets could easily be there, like 7 or so targets for 12 DK points. Maybe scores a touchdown and gets to 20 DK points. Like that is certainly within the realm of possibilities. If he sits, Marvin Jones still going to be in play, still playing a decent amount. Last week, only 1 target. I think that was a lot due to the game. It was rainy, okay? So I'm not too worried about the production from last week for him or really any of the Jaguars players. All right, we got the Bills versus the Steelers here. The Steelers are 14-point underdogs. So, Kenny Pickett, sorry, buddy. You are getting thrown to the Wolves here. Okay, you came in and played a pretty solid half against the Jets last week. You look good. But now you're going to have a tough schedule. 3 out of your next 4 games are against tough defenses, buddy. So, we'll see. We'll see. Maybe he has some garbage time points and can produce that way. But I am a little bit worried about him. Honestly, I'm worried about this whole offense, and I really don't want to play anyone in this offense like Najee Harris. Sure, these guys could get garbage time points. The only player that I decently like is going to be George Pickens, still at 4.3. Saw 7 targets 2 weeks ago, 8 targets last week, and it did seem like they came out of that extended week, after playing Thursday Night Football, and we're like, all right, we're going to give Kenny Pickett a chance. I think it was by design, honestly. Like, all right, if Trubisky somewhat struggles at all, we're going to throw Kenny Pickett into the second half. And that way, he doesn't have any cloudy brain going on. He's not worried or anything. He's going to go out there and play football. And I think that was the plan all along. That's how I saw it, because it was kind of obvious, kind of based off of some of the stuff we were hearing coming out of the Steelers as well. It's like it was kind of expected that Kenny Pickett would eventually take over, and it seemed like that was the plan. What I'm trying to get at is it kind of seemed like they also figured out that they need to get Pickens the ball a little bit more as well. He is someone at 4.3 I think could do well, and that's mostly because I think he'll still play if the game's a blowout, which once again Vegas is thinking so. It is a 45.5 over and under as well, just mentioning that. So George Pickens, he could be a play. I don't love it, but sure, garbage time could do it. The play that I really like the most in this game is actually going to be Devin Singletary. So it is going to be 14 points is what the Bills are favored to win. So that would essentially mean that they are going to be able to run the ball a little bit more. Devin Singletary saw 88% of the snaps last week, 70% of the snaps 2 weeks ago. And really, they kind of just went away from that 3-headed monster approach that they did in week 1. They kind of reverted back to what they did in the second half of last season, which was Devin Singletary, you are a workhorse running back. Congratulations. And it is awesome, especially for us in DFS. Gets a matchup with the Steelers, which is one that you're not worried about. A bottom 10 defense against opposing running backs. He has been getting used in the passing game a decent amount. 11 targets 2 weeks ago, which is crazy, but 5 targets last week. Okay, so I like that. And with Crowder banged up, with Isaiah McKenzie maybe out as well, I still think he's going to get those dump off targets. Those should still be there. And if he's going to get around 10 rushing attempts plus a few targets, a chance to score a touchdown, he hasn't scored a touchdown yet, except for that one, receiving touchdown in a 14-point game or a 14-point favored game. Devin Singletary at 6.1 is highly intriguing to me. In that offense, one of the best offenses in the league. Come on, it's just I don't want to say it's an obvious play because I want to get 20 opportunities out of him, but dang, at 6.1, that's highly appealing. And then sure, if you guys can afford to pay for Josh Allen, once again, by all means do it. I guess the worry would be that in his best matchup of the year thus far, he only scored 24 DK points against the Baltimore Ravens, a defense that have just been terrible against opposing quarterbacks. I guess that'd be the worry. Still averaging over 30 DK points per game. Still has the Steelers defense that allowed Zach Wilson to score 20 DK points. So I'm fine with it. You get started to play Josh Allen. If you can afford to pay up for him, do it. And in that sense, yeah, Diggs is firmly in play. I think Gabe Davis is someone you can go back to, even though he's stuck. We got to see the word on Isaiah McKenzie. With Jameson Crowder ruled out and Jay Kumaro already ruled out, we could see Khalil Shakur I'm sorry if I said his name wrong. Okay. Should have looked that up prior to this, but he is someone that instantly saw 25% of the snaps last week. Okay. He's someone that looked good in the preseason. He is someone that they were excited about in the preseason. He could be someone that is forced into getting 50% of those snaps like Crowder, like Isaiah McKenzie. If that happens, he could be a fine play. In that minimal workload last week, 25% of the snaps, he saw 2 targets. He was able to score 4.5 or 4.3 DK points. Times that by 2, double his playing time, 8 DK points. And the thing with it is, it's like this game will most likely be a blowout, and I would say he would still see the field, maybe gets 60% of the snaps then. Not a terrible value play. I think there are better value plays that you can go with this week. All right, getting to the Vikings versus Bears, I will start off with saying that I don't really like any of the Vikings players, even though they are favored to win by 7.5 points. The over and under for this game is set at 44. The problem with the Vikings players is that they're all priced correctly. That's my worry. And the Bears D are good enough to hinder production. Like, could Dalvin Cook go for 20 DK points? Sure. It's not something we want to chase, I don't think, at 7.3 price point wise. Justin Jefferson, could he go off for a big, huge game? He could, but at 8.9, that does seem a little bit too risky for me, given how good enough the Bears D has been. Now, yes, they've kind of been in some weird games. The Giants aren't really a good passing offense, especially with all of their starters banged up. Okay. Week 1 against the Niners, it was that weird monsoon game pretty much. Okay. So like the Packers, a lot of their starters were banged up that game. Like, a lot of weird stuff has happened to the point where they are the number 1 worst matchup you can have, but they are pretty good. I would say they are middle of the pack. Could they hinder Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen? I think so. Okay, so I kind of just think all the Vikings players are priced correctly. Thus, I don't like any of them, if that makes sense. I do kind of see the Bears covering at 7.5, but I do think the Vikings are going to find a way to win, and that's mostly just due to how bad Justin Fields has looked throwing the ball. And I want to make that clear. He has looked pretty awesome scrambling. Like, he has made some awesome plays, and he has scrambled over 7 or more times in each and every game. Okay, so in that sense, he's looked really good. The Minnesota Vikings have given up 2 rushing touchdowns as well. So, like, if he scores a rushing touchdown, wouldn't it be too shocking? And at 5.3, I guess that's in play. Like, I don't know. He just has looked bad throwing the ball, guys. Like, oh man, it's brutal. Like, you wonder what the problem is with these offenses. And I guess the Niners, and kind of against Green Bay, like, giving him the benefit of the doubt, against Houston, they were just running the ball a ton, okay? It was like last week was the week in which they really needed him to make some throws, and he just couldn't. He was very inaccurate. And yes, he did face a ton of pressure, okay? And he was able to get out of the way of the pressure a decent amount of times. But when he had time to throw the ball, it was not accurate. Okay, his arm is what is hindering this offense. They got to find a way to scheme against that. And that's, we don't really have any plays in this game. Like Bears D, they could be fine. The one play that I like the most in this game, if David Montgomery sits, he's currently questionable, would be Khalil Herbert at 5.9. That is still pretty cheap. He saw 77% of the snaps last week, saw over 20 opportunities last week, scored 11.1 DK points. Okay, that's pretty good for a guy that only had 1 catch and didn't score a touchdown. I mean, he looked good. The offense looked good. Obviously, this team is a run-first offense. Treston Ebner came in and had some pretty decent carries. It was interesting to see Treston Ebner start the second half. That was weird. I don't know what's going on with Herbert, but he looked good at 5.9. That'd be a play I firmly like. Like, could he get 12 DK points? Sure. And like at that price point, firmly in play. But that's really it for that game. All right, so now we had the Falcons versus the Bucks, and man, guys, like Marcus Mariota continues to play some great football. Like, yes, he had an interception last week. That interception was not really his fault. Drake London kind of ran a weak route and just basically let the defender pick off the football. Drake London had a game in which he struggled. I won't say like Marcus Mariota struggled. Marcus Mariota really was the reason why they won that game. I shouldn't say that. That's not true. It was their run game. Their run game was elite. The Falcons' run game, anyone that was in there did really well. Patterson looked good. And the thing with it is, it's like the plays were blocked in which they could cut back, and all the running backs looked good cutting back and finding where the hole was. And that's what's interesting, because like you watch that and you're like, oh wow, this guy looks good. Oh wow, this guy looks good. And it's like they're just finding the holes in ways in which like not every NFL running back would, but when all 4 of them do, and I want to say 4 because they had Caleb Huntley, Avery Williams, Tyler Algier, and Cordero Patterson all make some awesome runs. Like, the run game was good and they all just worked effectively. The run game was why they won that game. But Marcus Mariota has been playing some good football. And I know it doesn't exactly say it stat-wise, but it's like, given the terrible quarterback play that's out there, it's just surprising how well Marcus Mariota has played, even though the stats don't really say it. Like, Kyle Pitts has, I don't really want to get started on the Kyle Pitts stuff, but like, I just don't think he's that good. Like, he had a terrible drop last week, not really getting open. Like, Marcus Mariota is not forcing the ball to him. Drake London had a bad game. It's not like Mariota dominated. I don't want to get crazy with it, but this Falcons team is pretty good. The D is pretty good as well. They are a defense in which can hinder production. Okay, so let me just say, I know that was a lot of fluff there. Let me just say, I could see Tyler Algier having a good game. Okay, with Cordero Patterson out, I could see him having a good game. Now, the Bucks did just give up 5.1 yards per carry and 2 rushing touchdowns to the Chiefs for 189 yards as well. So, like, with how well the Falcons looked on their rushing game, I could see Tyler Algier, who most likely is going to be the RB1 in this offense. He had 10 rushing attempts for 84 yards, 1 target in there. That was a pretty nice screenplay. I could see him actually being a sneaky play. If he falls into the end zone, he could be an even better play. The problem with it is, for the most part, the Bucks have been a pretty solid rush defense. And, Caleb Huntley did look good as well. He had 10 rushing attempts for 56 yards and a touchdown. Okay, like, all the running backs look good. So it's just, we can't predict which running back is going to get the workload. Okay, and they are just kind of splitting time. It does make all of them tougher plays. I do want to just point out, like, whenever the Falcons need a play, Zacchaeus is a player that's just stepping up for him on, like, very limited workloads, target share. He's kind of been making some big clutch third down catches. And then with Kyle Pitts out, Parker Hesse is probably going to play a lot of snaps. He was already the leading snap getter for them, more of a blocking tight end. I'm not expecting that much out of him, but 2.5, cheap price point. He's someone that sure could get a couple of catches and do something in this game. Now, flipping over into the Tampa Bay side of it, with Cameron Braid out, we could say Cade Otten being playing a lot, having a decent amount of usage, getting over 60% of snaps like he did last week, saw 4 targets, and was able to score 5.9 DK points. At the minimum price point on DraftKings this week, Cade Otten is highly appealing, especially in this game. Now, I did mention that the Falcons have been good defensively, okay? That's AJ Terrell has been able to shut down some really good receivers, all right? That does worry me a little bit about, like, Mike Evans, possibly. Maybe Mike Evans doesn't have as an elite of a game. Maybe he has 12 DK points, okay? If that happens, then that would mean Chris Godwin, who ran the second most receiver routes out of anyone in the NFL last week, saw 90% of the snaps, saw 10 targets, had 7 receptions, 12.9 DK points. He'd be an elite play. At 5.9, I love this. I love this play. Okay, I do. 5.9 for a guy playing that many snaps in a game that is kind of supposed to be higher scoring, 46. I like that a lot. The Bucks are favored to win by 10 points. Chris Godwin just makes too much sense. Sure, you worry about him potentially re-injuring something, but those snaps should be there. A lot of people are on Leonard Fournette this week. I don't know. Rashad White did come in and play a lot of that third down work, and Leonard Fournette has looked terrible running the ball the first 3 weeks. He's like at 12% projected ownership. I saw 20% earlier. I think that was just the start of the week, but I don't know. Rashad White looked decent. I do really like Tom Brady, though, at 6K, guys. I know a lot of people are thinking, what about the divorce? I'm not worried about the divorce. Honestly, like, that was probably what was weighing down on him at the start of the year, is that possibility. And maybe, like, they just finally got it over with, got out into the public's eyes as well. Like, whatever. I'm not too worried about that for Tom Brady, okay? So, whatever. The last 2 weeks, he threw the ball 42 times against Green Bay and then 52 times last week. Okay, it was his best week last week going against the Chiefs, who, yes, they are the easiest matchup that he's faced thus far. And then I would say the Falcons would be the second easiest, although their defense has looked good. Okay, so just saying, like, 6K for Tom Brady with all of his offensive weapons back, to see him be able to 3X, 18 DK points, not out of the question. I think he could easily 4X at this price point. I really like stacking Tom Brady with a pass catcher or two. And I do just want to say the difference in this game is going to be the Falcons O-line versus the Bucks D-line. Okay, the Bucks D-line had 14 sacks on the year, and they've had 29 total QB hits. Okay, so that's 4th in the league in both of those. The Falcons, the last 2 weeks, have had pressure on 40% of their dropbacks. And this is why I echo how good Marcus Mariota has been, because 40% of his dropbacks he's had pressure on, okay? And they have found ways to win the game. He has found ways to make some plays happen with receivers dropping the ball, okay? That matchup there is going to be the difference in this game. And I kind of like betting the Falcons at -10. All right, so getting into the Chargers versus the Browns. The Chargers are favored to win by 2 points. The over and under for this game is set at 47. So Vegas does see this kind of being a higher scoring game. I do want to just point out both the running backs are going to be firmly in play. Nick Chubb just really has looked great this whole season. And against the Chargers just gave up a ton of rushing yards to Damien Pierce. They've kind of been gashed via the run game. Nick Chubb has just looked so good And yes, he is priced up enough, and you have to think about it at this price point, but I do think he's going to get those 20 rushing attempts or so in this game just because that is the weakness of this defense. And just with how good he's looked, he's been the team. He's like carrying this team. Although Jacoby Brissett surprisingly been good, it wouldn't shock me to see Nick Chubb get to 20 DK points in this one. On the flip side of it, like Austin Eckler, the first 3 or so series for the Chargers did not look good, and then something clicked, and it was back to the same old Austin Eckler. He does get the Browns defense that just got gashed by the Atlanta Falcons, like I just said, for like 5 minutes straight. The Falcons' run game was so crazily good. Should Austin Eckler be able to have a decent game with how well backup running backs look for the Falcons against the Browns? Yes, he should. The worry is not enough rushing attempts, but that's kind of always been him. With Keenan Allen still out this week, the targets should be there for him, okay? He's had 10, 8, and 7 targets with Keenan Allen out those weeks. I think those targets are continuing to be there for him, which should mean that his floor is pretty high as well. With Keenan Allen out, I do think that Mike Williams is going to be a player that's firmly in play. We've seen him have 10, 6, and 11 targets in those weeks with Keenan Allen out. And the worry, I guess, would be that Denzel Ward really was a shutdown cornerback last week against Drake London, but it's Drake London, still a rookie, still trying to prove it. I do see him gaining about 10 targets in this one, mostly because they're going to be forced to get him some targets. I do want to point out the fact that Josh Palmer is currently questionable. Apparently, he has an ankle injury going on. He only played in 56% of the snaps last week, which was highly interesting. About the third quarter, he pretty much sat out, and then at the end of the fourth quarter, he was back in. I don't really know what was going on there. I haven't seen reports saying that, yeah, he did sustain an ankle injury that they had to work on during the game, which is why he was kind of not playing as much. Okay, he only had 1 target for 25 yards as well, which happened in the first part of the second quarter. Just something to monitor there, because if he for some reason has to sit, then someone like Michael Bandy, who was a preseason stud, would come in and be a decent play. When Josh Palmer went out, Michael Bandy instantly saw 2 targets for 49 yards, okay? And he is someone that ended up playing about 30% of the snaps. He literally filled in for Josh Palmer. So if Josh Palmer sits, Michael Bandy is going to be a fun value play to look at because, well, he was open a decent amount on those plays as well. So just someone that I'm interested in playing if Palmer sits as well. DeAndre Carter is another value play that you could be looking at as well at 3.9. He hasn't been getting targeted a lot, but he has had some plays designed to go his way. Playing in 70% of the snaps. Once again, if Josh Palmer is ruled out, maybe he gets a little bit more usage. Not someone I love, but, price point is decent. Gerald Everett, currently questionable. He's been getting used a decent amount as well with Keenan Allen out. Once again, 10 targets in week 2, then 6 the last 2 weeks. And he's kind of looked good doing it. Still gotta wait and see if he's going to be active, but at 4.2, I do like that price point. This is kind of a sneaky stack I think you can get away with is Justin Herbert. At 7.1, it is a decent price point. The Browns defense has been good, but 3 out of Justin Herbert's 4 games have went for over 20 DK points. I think he's a solid play at this price point. And this is a pretty decent way to game stack this game. I don't really like any of the Cleveland Browns receivers. Amari Cooper did face a tough matchup last week going against AJ Terrell, and that's kind of why I pumped the brakes on him throughout the week last week, is because Terrell has been kind of a shutdown corner. I do expect him to have a little bit better of a game, but the Chargers DBs are pretty solid. David Njoku, sure, he could have a good game. I don't know. It's weird. 7 targets last week, 10.7 DK points. It looked good, but we've been there and we've seen this before from David Njoku. It's just he hasn't been able to do it consistently. I don't know. I'm having a tough time struggling with him being an effective DFS option or fantasy football option consistently. But this is a solid stack, guys. I like this stack. It's a sneaky stack. I know I still have Devin Singletary in there. We'll take him out. It won't be too crazy to see this being a productive stack. If Josh Palmer plays, you could play Josh Palmer instead of Michael Bandy. And then just looking at the Seahawks versus the Saints, this isn't a game that I really like. The Saints are favored to win by 5.5 points. I actually like Seattle at 5.5. The game over under is set at 46. Alvin Kamara does get a good matchup against the Seattle Seahawks that just got torched by Jamal Williams. Sure, if Alvin Kamara is fully healthy, which they sat him out in the London game because of that, he should be healthy. We'll see. He'd be the only player that I really liked in this game. I don't really like the quarterback. Receiver-wise, maybe Chris Olave is someone you're looking at. Tyler Lockett is at a cheap price point still. Marquez Callaway probably will be a decent value play if Michael Thomas sits. He did see a high amount of snaps last week, 85% of them. Did get 6 targets, had a very impressive one-handed catch against the Carolina Panthers as well. Sure, at 3.3, he's someone you could look at, but none of these receivers are receivers that I'm really chasing. All right, another game that I don't really like is going to be the Niners versus the Panthers. Now, Baker Mayfield has just sucked. literally why I don't like the Panthers. Okay, the Panthers are only 6.5-point underdogs. The game over and under for this game is set at 39.5, which tells us all we need to know. That's a low game over and under. Kind of tells us like we don't really want to be attacking anyone in this game. Like Baker Mayfield struggled. Jimmy G has not been that good. Niners defense is pretty elite. So like that means none of the Panthers are going to be in play. Like sure, maybe like Shi Smith you could play, who's getting like 70% of the snaps in 3 out of the 4 weeks, but not targeted enough. Baker Mayfield's not been good enough to really sustain any value for any player. So like, why would we chase that? Deebo Samuel's getting a lot of ownership so far. I don't know. I don't really get it. I don't really see that. Like, he's not someone anyone should be going out of their way to play. Like, sure, he had a great game on Monday Night Football against a defense in which you should have a good game against. Like, he's been highly consistent. Like, he is a highly consistent player. Like, over 10 DK points each and every week with, mixing in a touchdown or two. That's going to happen. I just don't really see that. I'm not really chasing that. I don't really like anyone in this game. Like, I just don't. Let's just skip over it. I guess I would say the Niners I would pick to win. A game that could be a sneaky shootout is going to be the Philadelphia Eagles versus the Arizona Cardinals. So the Cardinals are 5-point underdogs, but the game under for this game is set at 48.5. Okay, this could be a game in which is a shootout. Now, Kyler Murray and the Arizona Cardinals offense has struggled, okay, but he has still been able to have productive days. 3 out of his 4 games have been over 20 DK points, and the one game that was against the Rams, which have been, poor defense, scored 16 DK points. So, it is what it is there. And with that, like, someone like Marquise Brown could be in play, but 7.2 is a high price point for him. Now, yes, over 6 targets in every game, over 11 targets in the last 3 games, been highly productive the last 2 games, 30 and 20 DK points. Okay, like, I don't mind that. The Eagles defense is pretty solid, though. Is he someone that's going to get peppered with targets? Sure. And if you are trying to game stack this game, he is someone you could look at. The one thing we got to watch out for is what's going to happen here with the Cardinals. So, like, Rondale Moore came in and instantly saw 80% of the snaps last week, and which was strange because Greg Dortch had been highly productive thus far. Okay, and we'll see. Like, Greg Dortch only played in 30% of the snaps. So, like, it was pretty clear that Rondale Moore came in and instantly took his snaps. And Rondale Moore had the worst production from that position thus far for the Cardinals, where Greg Dortch had 3 straight games of over 10 DK points. Rondale Moore came in and did not do well. 5 targets for 3.7 DK points. Still, he's at a cheap price point. If he's going to be playing that many snaps, that is highly intriguing to me. He's someone you could easily put into a game stack. You got to watch to see if AJ Green is going to play. Currently limited. We'll see. Tight end wise, if you really are trying to game stack this game, you could go with Zach Ertz. I don't hate that. Kyler Murray, if you want to play him, you could, but I think you would just rather pay up for Jalen Hurts in this matchup. Cardinals are a team in which is all right defensively. You could play him if you want to. Jalen Hurts struggled last week, which was a fade for me last week. Awesome to see. I do expect him to bounce back this week. Miles Sanders had a very productive game last week. I think that was mostly just due to the rain in that game. It was raining pretty heavily. Saw 27 rushing attempts. I don't really expect that thus far. It does seem like an outlier, and that seems that it was because of the rain. Could you play AJ Brown and Devonta Smith if you really wanted to game stack this game? You could. Not a terrible game stack. Throwing one of the quarterbacks, you're kind of sitting pretty nice. You're getting a game that has a potential to be a shootout. 2 of the best. What were supposed to be 2 of the best offenses, 2 of the best offenses you want to chase DFS-wise, you could go that route if you wanted to. And then from there, the last game that we're going to be touching on is going to be the Dallas Cowboys versus the Los Angeles Rams. Okay, the Cowboys are 5.5-point underdogs, which I kind of like to bet. Okay, the game over and under for this game is set at 43. So not that many points are going to be scored. Cooper Rush, let's just try to do a game stack. So Cooper Rush has done enough to win games. He hasn't done enough to win you anything DFS-wise. Like, sure, last week, I guess, against Washington, a team that you want to attack, did score 17.2 DK points. We like that. The Rams have been poor defensively. Could he have a good game? Sure. We'll try to do a game stack with that. With that, we don't want to be using Zeke or Tony Pollard. The Rams are good, again, stopping the run. So we want to be targeting their pass catchers. Okay, so I do like that Michael Gallup came in and played over 50% of the snaps. What I don't like is that he only saw 3 targets, but it does seem like that was all right, let's see what you can do. We're going to limit your workload. We'll see what you can do. He was impressive with, what he was asked to do. He was impressive doing that. If he's going to get more snaps in this matchup, I expect him to get more targets. He's a play that I don't mind at 5K. Could he go off? Like, could he play 80% of the snaps, get 7 targets? He certainly could. I like that a lot. CeeDee Lamb, currently questionable. He's expected to play. I don't mind him as a play, especially if you're trying to game stack. Noah Brown still saw a lot of targets, still saw a lot of snaps at 4.9. He is firmly in play. Like, if you are trying to game stack it, I think that's the route that you go. Dalton Schultz, I don't love. He's a play that I think would only help Cooper Rush in that sense, given the fact that the Rams have struggled. And then you could easily run it back with the simple plays from the LA Rams. That'd be Tyler Higbee, playing 90% of the snaps, getting a lot of targets, someone you could easily chase. And then Cooper Kupp, obviously, just a stud. What can we say? Getting targeted a ton, being highly productive each and every game. Sure, you could easily play him, and you still have a decent amount of salary left over to finish off any stack or any plays that you want to make with that stack. All right, but that is all the games here. The game-by-game breakdown is done. Hopefully, you guys got a lot out of this. If you did, please give me a like and subscribe. That does help out the channel a lot, which once again helps me help you guys. If you guys want to join 9 to 5, become a 9 to 5 member. That is a $10 membership. It includes the 9 to 5 lineup builder, which for $10 a month just to get that is huge. A lot of companies charge way more than that. You also get the cheat sheet, which has some ownership leverage in there, and other stuff in there that I find useful. They're all little tools and trinkets that I like to use when I make these videos. And then also, it is basically a golf package. Like, that is how it started out. You get all that access as well, $10 a month. But that's all I have for you guys this week. Let's have a good weekend as always. Let's keep cashing.